Namaste to all. Today we are going to discuss a very interesting topic that was based on a blog which I had written long time back. But the blog is only a data tool. So we will try to look into that from multiple angles. Also, some of the questions that we had already looked in. So the topic for today, or the question for today, is fate versus free will. We are going to understand what is fate, what is free will, what is free, and what is will in that, and everything in between. So just to give you a small background about this article, which was written several years ago. So a bunch of people came to me, and during that short period of time, they started asking me, like, what do you think about people who are continuously running into problem after problem after problem? And I saw some very near and dear who were in the shoes, and it was kind of hard to explain to them, tell the Vedantic point of view, because they were not ready for Vedanta or for a real solution. All they could see was, I am running into problem one after the other, and it seems to be an endless cycle. And then they also looked around, and we also look around and see, like, some people are so lucky. The other day I was talking to a school student, high school student, probably going to college or something like that. The question was, in that student's class, some people had to bust their chops to get a grade A. They had to work hard, extremely hard. And this was a tough course. Whereas some people, they just come, they sleep through the class, they just submit their papers, and they just get an easy A. Now, on an intellectual level, they both are almost on par. But how is it? Somebody is feeling stressed out, somebody is feeling it too easy. And then there was another set of people long time back. They said, hey, what about these horoscopes? And different people are telling same horoscope, different people are telling different things. What should I do? And a lot of these questions are revolving around understanding karma, understanding what is fate, what is free will. Now, we are all familiar with, in India at least, we are familiar with this idea of what is fate, right? And we also go to the level of translating it as Saubhagya and Durbhagya, good fortune, bad fortune, right? Some people are not born as children of, say, the like Ambani or Adani. Some people are really dumb enough to be born as a fake borrowed name, last name. Some clowns who are born in some political class, right? And then you also find some people who are like born blind. How do you explain the discrepancy? If you ask the Abrahamic faith, they will tell you, remember, it is a faith. That means you have to believe blindly. You are not supposed to ask these questions. And if you still dare to ask the question, the answer will be something along these lines. What I have repeatedly heard over several lectures of several followers of those desert cults. That is done to glorify God. How is that you being some child that is born with a congenital disease that lives only a few months, or a child that is born with some problem, or somebody born into poverty, extreme penury, how is that glorifying God? Oh, don't ask these questions. You are still under the spell of Satan. Whereas in Sanatana Dharma, you can perfectly ask these questions because these are legit questions and there are wonderful scientific answers available. So one needs to understand right at the outset when people say all religions are same. Well, from a theoretical perspective of respecting them all, yes. But we should be so proud of Sanatana Dharma because Sanatana Dharma only goes into the deep understanding of these problems. Now we also understand what is this, um, like in old movies, if you have seen, there is a guy who is living the life of a beggar. Suddenly a royal elephant comes, garlands that guy. Now the street beggar has become a Raja. So there are people who go just play the lottery, they just get so much money right away. There is a guy who I believe last week in US he won more than $1 billion. How do you explain all this? At the same time, there were like yesterday's news. There were a couple, old couple. They were uh, probably in their 70s, and they had come to visit Washington D.C. and they were just touring around the White House. Out of nowhere came a cloud and a lightning bolt that struck and killed them right there. And that lightning was captured because it is a very popular destination where people are all the time on camera and things like that. There was some TV crew that caught the footage of that, even that lightning that was hitting. How come that happened? A freak accident. So we have a lot of these kind of questions that we say, like, so we think today's person thinks fate is what is written on the head of the person. Brahmaji wrote it when he was born, and this person is doomed to be successful or a failure. Imagine how much notes Brahmaji has to write for every single person. Maybe that's the job profile he signed for without knowing. I think when he applied for that post, I think there was no prior, what's it like, example. So maybe he got entangled into that job. No, that's not true. So what we need to understand is fate is our own creation. It is we who create this fate. But what we are told is we are all creatures controlled by fate. Nothing can be done beyond fate. This is exactly the opposite of what we understand in karma theory. Karma theory tells exactly opposite of this kind of fatalism. Now, if you take the word fatalism and remove the ism, what are you left with? Fatal. That is exactly what it is. This kind of fatalism is nothing but inertia, lethargy, a mental sluggishness, resigning our will and kind of signing up for bondage and slavery. This kind of fatalism basically is a poison to real faith. What happens is it destroys our ethics and morals. We are kind of stuck in a place where we are not able to come out of that loop of that tamasic thought process. That tamasic thought process is making us feel like, oh, you know what, I can't do anything. But what karma theory is telling is, hey, there is a level of freedom that is given to you. That level of freedom is assured to each one of us to ensure growth, evolution, and for achieving the highest potential. And that is done through self-effort. The word for that self-effort is called Purushartha. Now, Purushartha has multiple meanings in different contexts. Purusha Artha. So you are working towards a valid goal. Now, in a different context, Purushartha also implies the four levels of vision and the four levels at which we can operate. We already know that. Dharma, Artha, Kama, Moksha. But Purushartha also implies that self-effort which we put towards. And in this case, what happens? We don't know what is that effort we need to do, because if you resign to the fact that this is all predetermined, everything is predetermined because the stars are aligned in a way, because I am doing things in a certain way, that's all preordained by some divinity, then what is the meaning of even your existence? Think about it. If everything is written, that would be the most boring job for Bhagavan. That making you do things the way he has already told. Then what is the even meaning of our existence? If you are mere puppets in the hand of some crazy creator who is making things as he goes, that's what it looks like from the prism of fatalism or people who believe in fate. But on the other hand, we think we have free will, assuming that it's not just will, it is free will. That means I can do anything I want. Now, is that really true? Can I really do anything I want? Is there a limit to what I want or what I can do? So, if that be the case, my free will is going to be conditioned. So, what is conditioning my free will? That is the question. So, let us look at this question from a different perspective. Do we have any examples, people who have made a complete change of a predetermined track? Like we know Ratnakar, the robber, but he changed his vasanas, he changed his direction, and he became Valmiki. We saw the same thing. Like we see a lot of these books that talk about Purushartha, for example, Yoga Vasishta, Bhagavad Gita, they all talk about Purushartha, putting forth our effort. But when we look at Itihasa Puranas, we see the great character of Markandeya Maharishi. He was predetermined as a person who would die at 16 years. That was the boon on which he was even born. But he did not accept that because he was not afraid of his own death. He was afraid that his parents would be feeling the loss. So he decided to take things in his own hands, and he changed the direction from being a person who should have been a boy who should have been dead at 16, he became a Nitya Chiranjeevi. We saw how Savitri, through her Satitva, changed the death of her husband and brought him back to life. Now you have all these examples. You can go on and on with so many people who have totally changed a predetermined course of direction. And how is that it is possible for some people and why not me? That should be our question. Why can't I be that person who can do Purushartha and change the direction of my life's focus? Is that even possible? To understand that, let's take a quick dive into what is karma. Because without understanding karma, we are not able to go deep into this context. So before we even think about it, we already know for a fact from Bhagavad Gita that we cannot live even 1 second without doing a karma. It is literally not possible. Now, our karma could be at a thought, a word, or an action, or a combination. Now, when we are doing a karma, what happens? I am prompted to do a particular action. When I do a particular action, I set a action either in the direction in alignment with dharma or against it. But nonetheless, it is an action. Now, if it is aligned with dharma, then we call it as punya. If it is aligned against dharma, that action is called papa. Now, when a karma is done, what is the natural outcome? There is a karma phala. There is a fruit of that action. Now, the fruit of that action is going to be only after you have done the action. Can you get the exam marks even before you do the exam? Is it possible? It's not possible. So, you will always get the karma phala after you have done with the karma. Now, between the karma and the karma phala, there is a direct correlation. I go to an exam. I write only the hall ticket number. I didn't answer any question. I go to all temples. I cut deals with Bhagavan. I go to Ganesha and say, I pass, I'll break 100 coconuts. Similarly, I cut deals with every temple. Do you think I will pass? Why? Because my karma phala was inherent in that karma itself. It's not something that is coming outside, it is part of that karma itself. So when my karma itself is going to determine the karma phala, then why should I bother about other people? Now that's where arrogance comes, that's where ignorance comes. So when I do a karma, the karma phala will take its own time for it to come. So when they say, for example, if there is a person who is getting addicted to say alcohol or cigarette, they say it is injurious to your health. One cigarette is not going to kill them. One gulp of alcohol is not going to kill them. But every single gulp, every single puff they take is going to add to that direction. So what is going to happen when I do a karma? The karma phala will come and there is a gap. And that is determined by the intensity of my karma, my definiteness of purpose, and why I do, when I do, where I do. All those things play into the factor. Now, what is the time? For example, if somebody wants to have a baby, let's say that they got married today. They still want to have the baby, to still take 10 months to have the baby. So, everything, even if you align, I write an exam today, my answers are contained, my marks are contained in that exam response itself. But my results are going to take 1 week, 2 weeks, 2 months, depending on when they find a person to announce that result. So in between that time, what happens? So when I do a karma, just like I take a walk on a beach, on a sandy beach, what do you see? My footprints. Same way, if you do one karma, you will see the footprints of it, and there is going to be that residual effect. Like you find an old perfume bottle, empty, and you try to take it and try to sniff it, you will still smell the old perfume though the perfume in it was gone long before you even looked at it. So where is this smell or this residue coming from? That is what we call as vasana, the leftover, the impact. So every karma has got a leftover effect called vasana. Just like the river, just like the water that is flowing in some small channel in a gully or in a side of the hill, you will find that it will keep flowing continuously on that path again and again and again and again. Eventually, it will form a deep gully, ravine, even a canyon, right? Depending on the type of soil. So we find the same situation in our life, that when an action is done, when a karma is done, there is a impact on there is a leftover vasana. And in between the time my karma is done and I wait for the result, do I keep quiet? I keep replaying this in my mind and strengthen that vasana, right? You can't wait to do the same action again. Or even if you are afraid or not liking that action, though you are forced to do that action, you are dreading that action and you are recreating that vasana. Now, when you enjoy that karma phala, the fruit of that action, you are going to again reiterate your vasana. So thus what happens, what we think is only one time I am doing one action, there should be only one imprint, but that's not true. Now what happens, I have a thought process that is creating this kind of feedback loop on my mind. The mind gets pressure from two places. One, the inputs from all the sensory organs. Once the senses are coming in contact with the objects, it is going to take those sensory objects, transmitted back as a sensory pressure, and it is going to add that pressure to the mind. But even if you have turned off all the sources, there is going to be an internal pressure coming from you and you are going to fall for it. And that is going to be the vasana pressure. So from these two vasana pressures and the sensory inputs, we are always forced to do some karma or the other. When we do a karma, what happens? The karma phala is going to come. Now all the karma phala that has not yet fructified, that is sitting in from so many janmas, so many lifetimes, that is what we call as sanchita karma. Just a word to denote it. But you can't bring all of that in one lifetime. Can you bring a lifetime of your experience in the next 5 minutes? You cannot. So same way you cannot bring your multiple lifetime experience in just one janma. So the ones that you can bring in this janma is what we call as prarabdha karma. The karma for which the fruits of actions have started happening. Now, there is also a possibility that every time we are here to enjoy our karma, we also get into the situation where we are creating new karmas, whether it is because of vasana pressure, whether it is because of the sensory inputs. Those new karmas are what we call as kriyamana karma or agamya karma. Now let's understand it simple. Let's give a simple example. We all have seen this TV Ramayana Mahabharata. All these archers have this quiver on their back, where they keep, in what we call as tarkash, right? They put all the quiver in their back. Now the quiver contains so many arrows. That is what we call as sanchita karma. Now I got one arrow or a set of arrows in my bow ready for shooting. Those arrows are what we call as agamya karma or kriyamana karma. But just before I had left a few arrows from my quiver, I had already shot few arrows. Some are in the process of hitting the target, some have just hit the target, some are still up in the air, right? Those are what we call as prarabdha karma. Now, if I confused you, I'll give you another example. Let's say, for example, you have a huge storehouse, a warehouse, where you have collected thousands of tons of food grains. Now, that is your warehouse. But your retail center, whether it is wholesale or retail, your retail outlet, you will probably have 100 bags of food grains. That is your prarabdha karma. But at the checkout counter, somebody is standing, and that is what we call as agamya karma. Now, how do you look at these different karmas? How do you destroy them? Let's get that quick insight, then we can push the thing outside. So, for example, if you look at Sanchita karma, the only thing that can destroy that is Brahmajnana, knowledge about your real self, Atmajnana. Now, for example, in Prarabdha karma, you are bound to get into that problem, you are bound to get that experience, you are bound to enjoy that situation. So, all you need is the right attitude to enjoy it, right? For example, if you are seeing the replay of a match that is already over, how will you do? You will not be frustrated for watching a match that was played 2 years ago, 5 years ago. You will not have the same adrenaline rush because you know that it's bound to happen. Chalo chalta hai. Right? So prarabdha karma also is like that. Like you should have the right attitude, and only the right attitude will help. But kriyamana karma, we need to understand that we are nothing but, from the jnana perspective, if you look, we are a akarta. Who is the real karta? Bhagavan. So you look at it from a sakshi bhava. So then you are going to overcome that hurdle also. So to understand that, we need to really look at from a perspective of what this fatalism is or fate is. Now, we have a lot of karmas which we have done in the past. Those karma phalas are going to pop up randomly in our life. We don't know when, we don't know how. Because if we knew that, let's say for example, you are crossing a river. You have to walk and cross. Now if you are walking and crossing that river, it is only like half a foot water. You can easily cross. But it is a broad river. Let's say like it is like almost 1 kilometer wide. While you are halfway through, suddenly there is a flash flood that is coming. Will that affect you? Of course it will affect you, because you didn't anticipate that, right? So our prarabdha karma is also like that. Whenever I do an action, behind the scenes it is coming and influencing. Either it gives that positive boost, like when you are flying a plane, you get some tailwind, so that is helping you. Sometimes you run into headwinds, that is hurting you, right? So what we understand as fate is not like some Bhagavan sitting and writing in everybody's head. It's basically me coming with a baggage of karma phalas that are yet to fructify, which are bound to fructify in this life, and I take that karma phala that is affecting me into account. It is highly possible that we may fall into these three categories. Like in Mahabharata, on the 18th day when the war was decisively over, only three people were surviving the Kaurava side: Kripa, Kritavarma, and Ashwatthama. Ashwatthama wanted to go and kill all the sleeping Pandavas. So there was a discussion with Kripa. So Kripa says, hey, there are three types of people. The first type of people are people who give everything to luck, fate. And wise people don't give credit to that kind of thinking. Like if you want to make $1 million, for example, will you just say like, hey, last week I was walking on the road, I got a $10 note or like a 100 rupee note. I got that. So every day I go in different streets, I will keep collecting 100 rupees everywhere, and then very soon I will become a millionaire. Will that work? You might have hit that money a couple of times, but not every day, and that's not a plan. So that is why wise people say that kind of plan is always bound to fail. It's like I have seen some people when back in the school days, they will go and randomly look at a couple of old question papers, last 2 year question paper, 3 year question paper. And it will so happen that this fellow is lucky that the one fellow I remember, he barely passed the exam because all he read was like two 20-mark questions, and he read like 2 or 3 of them, and for that particular paper, and that's all he read and understood. He didn't know anything from anything. He didn't even know what the syllabus was. He didn't even pay. I mean, like you couldn't ask him anything about the subject. It so happened that he got, out of the 4 or 5 such questions he had prepared, he got 2 of them, and he was able to vomit whatever he could manage to cram, and he passed. And at the same time, there were people who were struggling, who did a lot of effort, and they did everything to study for that exam, and they still got like only like a 70 or 80. 70 was like a big score for that particular paper. So what I'm saying is, you can't rely on such a plan as your plan. Hope is not a plan. Luck is not a plan. That's what Kripa said. Then there is a second type of people. Now this is where the danger starts. The second type of people believe that they can understand everything, they can control everything, and what they do is they focus on taking charge of their own life. They believe everything in their own physical effort. They do the physical effort and they think they can control every aspect of their life. If you want to remember, that was the category of Duryodhana. Duryodhana believed in his own physical might, in his own physical actions. He didn't believe in aligning his actions with dharma. He didn't believe in any of those things. All he believed was, I am powerful because I am able to take control of my actions. So those people are not going to figure out a clear pathway or be successful at all times because they don't know when the curveball is going to hit them. So let's look at it as another example who don't fit into these two, and who is the right role model. The right role model for us is not Duryodhana. The right role model is Arjuna. Now, Arjuna, what did he do? he took refuge with Bhagavan. In this case, we will refer Bhagavan as Daivam. That is the word used by Vyasa in Mahabharata. That is also the same word used in Thirukkural to explain this mysterious factor. So I do a action and I try my best to align myself with Dharma. Now, whether I align myself with Dharma or not, there is this mysterious force that is entering into the play. This mysterious force is nothing other than my past karma coming and fructifying at a awkward time. Imagine I left the arrow from my bow. Suddenly there is lot of winds, crosswinds. So my calculation would go wrong, right? So that kind of effect, like just when you are crossing the river, that is when the flash flood came, that kind of effect will happen. That force is called Daivam. So when a person understands and respects this mysterious force called Daivam, they will not get dejected by the outcome of their own action, nor will they keep jumping up and down and say like, hey, I did, everything is my action. Everything is not only your action, there is also this mysterious force of Daivam at play. So when we look from that perspective, we will not succumb to this kind of fatalistic thinking, telling that, oh, I don't know, whatever I do is bad, all bad things happen to me. Why bad things happen to this kind of person? Because we are understanding from the perspective of karma theory. We are not understanding, so we don't blame Bhagavan and say like, hey, all bad things are happening to me. We don't know what karma we did. We don't know why a particular thing which we didn't expect even it to win, but magically produced beautiful results. At that time we don't question. At that time we say like, hey, I did hard work, I got all the credit I deserve, because our ahankara is speaking there. But when we hit into problem, we are the first one to say like, you know what kind of Bhagavan is this? All problems he is giving me. Oh, maybe he has given me all these problems. It is my fate. We get this kind of tamasic thinking which we need to avoid. Instead of blaming Bhagavan, we should be blaming ourselves. Hey, I didn't do enough effort. Instead of putting 90% effort or 70% effort or even putting 100% effort, I should have put 150% effort, and then I would have erased that possibility of that fate intervening. Now, what is this fate we were talking about? All our past actions only. All our past actions are having a long shadow on our present. And that is exactly what is happening. Now, if you look and you say that, hey, you know what, I'm not going to look at my past karma, how it is going to influence my present or not. I still have the choice this minute, this present minute, to change the direction. Now, if you do enough action to negate that negative karma phala for which you have done the negative karma in the past, you will still be able to produce outstanding results. But since we don't know what all we have done, that is where the problem is. Look at the problem from this perspective. If we know that the negative effect on our actions will be like 30%. So if I am going to do 100% effort, I am obviously going to fall short. I'm going to be like 70%. So if I did 150%, I have a sure shot way of winning it. But I don't know what is 100%. I don't know what is 150%. I don't know what is my 70%. And most importantly, I don't know whether the impacting effect will be only 30% or why it will not be even 100% by itself. We don't know. And when we are confounded in this situation, but we have this free will that I want to make this action happen no matter what. I try my best. I do understand that every time I try to do an action, there is a trace of vasana that is left. So these vasanas will, over a period of time, create a habit, and these habits will, out of repetitions, will impact my character, and this character will determine my destiny. So what is the pattern? My samskaras or vasanas. We develop it from my samskara, I get a vasana, then I get the habit, then I get a character, and then I determine my destiny. So if I want a new destiny, I will have to go through this entire process. Now, every small action I do will have this kind of like a trifecta of these forces. What is my free will? What is my character? What is my fate? My fate is nothing but my past karma. My character, free will is my determination and my focus that I am going to do. And character is my current guna composition, which will pull me in a certain direction or pull me away from a certain direction. So when we understand that from that perspective, it's all about us trying to do the free will. Now here, when we say free will, what is free and what is will? Can I do any action? So to make sense of it, let's look at a small parable from Ramakrishna Paramahamsa. So, like in those days, even now you will see in the village side, if you have a cow, you tie it to a rope of some length and you put a stake in the ground and tie it to it. Now, how far is this cow capable of roaming? Does the cow have a freedom? Yes, the cow has the freedom to be within the confines of that prarabdha karma, or in this case the rope. So I am not a dolphin, so I can't jump in the water and swim like it. I am not an eagle, so I can't start flying and start opening my wings and flying. So in that sense, my prarabdha is going to limit my action. It's obvious. But my agamya karma determines whether I will exercise my full potential of prarabdha or whether I will curtail it. Like if your cow is now free to go round and round and round. Now, in the process of going round and round, let's say that if the cow has tied the rope in knots, how knots can happen randomly when even if you are going in the same place again and again, cross back and forth. Then what will happen? Let's say that the cow's rope was 50 feet or 20 feet. Now 20 feet rope, it had the freedom. But due to the agamya karma, it could have only 2 feet of freedom. So the choice we make can either help our potential or hinder our potential. Now the cow could also take its rope and start cutting it if there is a big rock somewhere, and it could start cutting it and it could make itself free and it could even go free. So basically what happens is what we do in our life is dependent on that free will. Now the will has to be free and it also has to have an impact on our character. So what will be those things that will impact our character in a positive way? Obviously, taking refuge in the Shastras, associating with Satsanga, with great Mahatmas, because their thought process is always stuck at the highest level. See, we also gave the explanation of Purushartha, which is not only the effort, but it is also the type of effort we can do in the form of Dharma, Artha, Kama, Moksha. If my vision is so narrow and me-centric, all I can think is I, me, myself, then what is going to happen? I am going to stay so limited by my vision that I can't tap into my full potential. But if I am expanding it to a level of system, I operate it at Artha level. But if I operate it to a system of systems, I start operating at the level of Dharma. And Dharma is not a limit. It's just the starting point and it can expand all the way and ends only with moksha. So it is important for us to understand that when we are looking at where in the scale are we doing. And we also have this problem. What is this problem? This problem that I am doing. Now when I start thinking that I am this body, I am this mind, I am this prana, I am this indriya. Now this habit of continuously reinforcing that I am this, I am that, instead we have to realize we are the Jivatman. Now if you are seeing from a Dvaita perspective, you can say I am Jivatma, there is Paramatma, you go in Bhakti, that's fine. Or you go in the path of Advaita and say no, I am Jivatman, which is nothing but a reflection of the same Paramatman. So you go even one step different. So here we are not looking at Sampradayas. But what is the ground reality? The ground reality, I am a Jivatma. See, even if you take Kathopanishad, the point where we come to realizing that we are the Atman is only the midpoint. Because after that midpoint, you have to realize that there is something called as Mahat, there is something called as Avyakta, which is what we call Purusha, Prakriti, and then we also go beyond that and we call that as Purusha. So you are only coming at the starting point of the race. It's like you want to run in the Olympics, right? Now they have all these trials. So many countries send so many players, right? So they have a certain cutoff. If you don't even follow the cutoff, you are not even there. So when you see the finals, what do you see? 8 players or 10 players or something, the final list of candidates who do that. So that midway point for our understanding our real self is we are Jivatman. That's where the journey, real journey, spiritual journey begins. What is beyond our Atman? That is a totally different discussion. So the bottom line thing, what we are trying to do when we are doing that free will is to understand that who is that person who is willing. When we understand that who is this, it's not the body, right? So when we come to that level, now we are now thinking like, now we are putting the entire focus under a microscope. Now we are looking at our own self. I am looking at my own actions. I am following my actions and I am saying like, hey, my actions are coming from my thoughts. And those thoughts are coming because of my vasanas. and those vasanas are dictating to me. So whatever I am getting pulled in the direction of vasanas, it is not free, because I am being pushed in that direction. So I am like, so if you are a person, let's say, imagine you are on a raft, on a piece of raft, on a log or something like that. Now you are floating on a river. It's a lazy river. It's like very easy, just flowing normally. Suddenly, it starts picking speed. Now you are so happy. You didn't do anything. You are so happy that the raft is flowing faster than you think. Now, what happened that raft, when it goes faster and faster and faster, at some point you start hearing some odd sound, and you realize that you are like very close to the Niagara Falls. And if you go over the ledge, it's fatal. Now you try to put all your effort and try to steer clear of that path. Oops, it's too late. So when we say we have got the free will, now you got the free will to do what? The real free will, in my mind, in my opinion, again, this is my opinion, you can feel free to follow what your understanding is. My mind, my understanding, very limited, is telling me the only free will I have is to choose between a dehabhimana, thinking that I am the body, or thinking that, realizing that my real nature is that of Atma. I have that choice. Because once my choice is made, the subsequent choices are all preset. Once I make the determination that I am this body, no matter what will you have and what attitude you bring, what this modern mumbo jumbo you bring to the table, guess what? You are still the body. You are still operating under the wrong fallacy that you are the body. So you are bound to create those kind of karmas and karma phalas that are not conducive for your full potential. Yes, for expressing your desire, you may not have to think at that level. But if you want to operate at higher levels, like say dharma or working towards moksha, you cannot operate under the fallacy that you are the body. So you have to move the needle to realize that you are not this body and you are this prana, and not even this prana, you are not this manas. Oh, I am not even this manas. Am I the buddhi? No, you are not even the buddhi. Obviously, you are not all the wealth and the belongings and the relatives and things like that you have. So what are you? You are the Atman. Once you are locked onto that, all other choices are going to take you towards the direction where you are going to make the right choices. So if we take a step back, when we understand that all our past actions are going to determine our future, present, and our present has the potential to alter my future, but I don't make a choice. I don't make that free will choice. The choice is only two. See, even in the Kathopanishad, Bhagavan Yama says only two choices are there. One is Shreyas, one is Preyas. If you are going to think that I am this body, you are going to limit your things you are going to enjoy. That limited enjoyment is going to give you limited pleasure. But that pleasure comes with the caveat, it's like two sides of the same coin. You choose that coin, one side is pleasure, another side is pain. But if you choose the path of Shreyas, your basic premise is I am not this body. I am this jiva. Once you understand you are the jiva, you are going to operate from a totally different perspective. You are not chasing pleasure, so you are not going to be worried about the pain. You are chasing santushta, being content, which is going to give you peace of mind. When you are choosing that peace, you are also going to get on the other side of the coin only ananda. There's no word opposite for ananda. It's not like more dukkha or mega dukkha or something like that. But sukha is opposite is dukkha. But what do you say for bliss? You don't have an exact opposite. So if you are focusing on sukha in life, you are going to end up with dukkha. If you know that life is full of dukkha, you go to a wise person, he'll say, don't worry, sukha will be coming very soon. Because it's a matter of only perspective and timing. So we are discussing here today about fate versus free will. And we are discussing about what are the choices we have. And when we look at the different choices we have, who better than Bhagavan Krishna to give us the choice? So 18 chapters, Bhagavan, okay, 17, one chapter is quietly listening, but other 17 chapters he gives lecture. So after 18 chapters, after showing him Vishwarupa Darshana, after doing everything, Bhagavan says, Yate chesi tata kuru. Whatever you understand and whatever you want to follow, that you do. The free will is still yours. Now, in case of Arjuna, what was his problem? His problem was his what is it like wrong interpretation of what is dharma was clouding his judgment. So Bhagavan told what was dharma. Once he understood dharma, he said, I am going to align with dharma or I am going to align against dharma. That was the only choice left for him. And being the smart guy, he said, I am going to be aligning with dharma. Why? Because Bhagavan is already on the side of dharma. So he was lucky enough to see a visual Bhagavan, living physical being, and he was able to make that choice. But in our case, it may not be easy because our understanding of dharma is probably still stuck in chapter 1. So how do we get past the chapter 1 of our life in Gita? That is where we need to have satsanga. That is where we look at the lives of these great Mahatmas. That is where we look at repeatedly analyzing our own life, introspecting. That introspection alone will help us to overcome this kind of fatalistic, deterministic thinking, which is deeply rooted in tamas. And that will also help us overcome this kind of arrogance that I alone am determining the final output, because you alone, your current actions alone are not. Your current actions are one of the key ingredients in the output, no question on that. But your current action alone doesn't provide that final output. And that's the subtle understanding or the variance we need to understand. So that subtle understanding we need to definitely get. So we understood, even for example, so once we understand that, am I audible, Navinji? Atmaji, am I audible? Can okay, I don't know.
Audible, Acharya ji.
Oh, okay, okay. I suddenly thought I didn't. Okay. So basically, what we understand is that Bhagavan is the Faladata, and all our past karmas are also chasing us, and it is going to keep popping up at odd times. So when we remain cognizant of the fact that our current actions is a key ingredient in creating a new future, there is also the echo of our past. There is also the blessing of acharyas, satsanga, Bhagavan, all factor in. There was a question yesterday, I think Srikanji asked, what about people's curses and blessing? Do they come into the play? One understanding we must understand, Srikanji, that what we look at as curse from rishis are all blessings in disguise. It was only a specialized set of conditions for us to evolve to the next step. If you look at, for example, any curse any rishi had given, take for case of Ahalya Shapa Vimochana. Ahalya was put under a certain condition to work on herself. Eventually, she was able to work her way out, and she got the stamp of approval from Bhagavan Rama himself. So, the curses of rishis are not actually curses. Those imprecations are not real curses. But there are people who can have negative effects by their thought process when we are working. Now, in all these equations, what did we see? We only saw our karma, our actions, our past vasanas, our echoes of the past, how they are focused on blossoming in a certain type of fruit, or hindering a certain type of fruit from being created. But when you put two people, I could be just like two ants. If you have seen like 2, 3 ants, when they are pulling a piece of food, each one is pulling in one direction, but the net force is taking it in a totally different direction. So what happens? We may be doing some actions, but our action plus the other person's action plus our past playing and impacting our current, present, and our present future. The same way for the other person. So we are already multiplied the complexity of our understanding. Now, if there are more than two people, do you think the complications will go more? So obviously, when we interact with people, if we are discussing a very fragile subject, very delicate topic, now what happens? If that thought process is being disturbed by negative thinking of other people, do you think it will have an impact on that? You better believe. You better believe. There are many times when I have seen and even heard from multiple people. So all you have to, like, somebody come, this person, back in college, my professor used to say, there was this guy he would refer. And all this guy has to come and say like, wow, you got nice jasmine flowers, huh? So within 1 week, that jasmine plant is kind of like stop producing flowers and it dies. So next time he comes and says like, oh, nice rose plant. All he said was nice rose plant. For you, it looks like that. In his mind, he's saying, nice rose plant. That means only this fellow is enjoying rose plant. It has an impact. So that is why if you look at the word satsanga, or you look at the three monkeys, what we say, don't look at negative, don't hear negative, don't speak negative, right? that association, when we say satsanga, without saying, it goes with a complementary thought process. When you say yes to satsanga, you are obviously saying no to dussanga. You can't have both together. So from that perspective, we are now come a full circle. We understand that what is fate, all our past actions, that is controlling our present. What is free will? Depending on the choice you are making, whether you are going to focus on what kind of abhimana you are, your real identity. That is the only choice. Am I thinking I am a Dehatma, or am I thinking I am Jivatma? So, what are you thinking? What is that guiding force? And then when you look at the third aspect of our gunas, our character, our guna composition. Now, all these things are going to determine which direction we go, how much level of effort we do, how much outcome will happen. So, the net outcome of any action is going to be a composite of all this. Now, this looks like a lot of work, lot of complications, and that is why you will find people following karma theory, understanding it, applying it in daily life will be very small. Why? To understand all this, process it, we don't even have data. How will you analyze when you don't even have data? So it is a lot easier for us to take some basic concepts of karma theory. What is that? Nishkamya karma. Don't be attached to the fruits of your action or its outcome. Now, what Bhagavan says is in the 18th chapter beginning, what is the first thing he is talking about? What is Tyaga? What is Sannyasa? Is the question of Arjuna. When you are giving up this attachment to a certain outcome, first what you are doing, you are aligning your actions to only dharma. So that way you are avoiding all papa karmas. If your actions are aligned against dharma, you are avoiding, that is papa. Now you are only focused on actions that are aligned with dharma, first step. Second step, what you do, you are giving up the attachment to even that karma or karma phala. You are just holding on to dharma because you have to do your karma and you are not attached to the outcome. Okay, I am supposed to do this. This is the outcome. If it comes, great. If it doesn't come, you have a prasada buddhi. That Bhagavan will take care of the outcome. You don't have to worry. You don't have to do a spreadsheet from last janma, how many things will come and where it came, where it went. You don't have to do anything. You are not applying for a job of Chitragupta's assistant. So you and I don't have to compute anything. Luckily. So what we are doing is, Bhagavan says go to the third step. The third step is sannyasa. Now sannyasa doesn't mean renounce and go everything. What he is saying is renounce the doership. So when we keep training our mind to understand and ask the questions like, am I aligned in dharma or not? Are my actions rooted in dharma or not? Am I always in the boundary, within the boundary of dharma or not? If we keep doing that, we are already like making ourselves very dear to Bhagavan. And then Bhagavan says, you focus not on the outcome because the outcome is already contained in the karma and you have taken that karma and aligned it already with dharma. So something good only will come. So why are you worried about it? Why are you beating around the bush? If it is not coming today, it is going to come tomorrow. So don't waste your time waiting for the fruits of your karma, it will come in due course. Don't worry. And you have already come to the second step. Now remember, you have already jumped the essence of entire Bhagavad Gita and you have already come to the crux of it. Now the third step is, now having said that all these things, it is not going to be easy because we have to practice all these things. But what I'm saying is, from a step by step process, you are already so close to Bhagavan. And the last step is to focus all the time on understanding who is doing it. Is this body that is doing it, or is this Atma that is behind all this? And if it is the Atma that is doing it, the Atma doesn't enjoy good and bad because gunas cannot touch the Atma. You are already now thinking in an advanced level. So thus Bhagavan Krishna has given the entire roadmap, right? You don't, when you are seeing the what is it, like a clay pot, you are thinking small pot, big pot, but the potter sees only as clay. You go to a goldsmith, you are saying, I this is a bangle, this is my ring, this is my family heirloom, this is my husband's gift, wife's gift. It doesn't matter to him. He looks at it and says, hey, this is 22 karat gold. No, 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 this is cheap, only covering. He only looks at the gold content. Same way, we need to look at our karma and ask one question: is it aligned with dharma or not? If it is aligned with dharma, I will just do this action, but I don't have to hold on or keep waiting for its outcome. And if I am not doing that, I have already jumped to the last chapter of Bhagavad Gita in terms of living my life. And that is the way to beat this question of fate versus free will. And with those words, let me conclude this talk, that we took some few minutes to ponder about the complex topic of what is fate, what is free will, what is, are we bound to one? Is the will really free, or is it colored by the vasanas? We asked all those questions. Hope that should have given some clarity to all of us. With those words, let me rest. Jai Shri Ram, Jai Shri Krishna, Har Har Mahadev. So at this point, back to you, Atmaji and Navinji. Atmaji, if you there are any questions, thoughts, comments, any observations, feel free to come.
Thank you, Satyaji. It was a really great session. So it was very informative. So if anyone in the audience has any questions related to this session, please kindly raise your hands so that we'll give a speaker option. If you're unable to talk, please kindly post your questions in the chat as well. Thank you.
Srikanji, hope your yesterday's question was taken care.
Namaste, Sachin. I got clarity. Actually, I was having this thought for a while, uh, one actions which we don't identify ourselves, whether that will have an impact for the prarabdha karma. So that clarity I received from you today. That's why I asked you about the question about curses and blessings. So thank you so much.
Namaste, Raji, go ahead.
Sir, um, this has been a very fascinating talk, basically because it is very application driven. Now, what I found extremely absorbing is that we, once that we are convinced that we should be in satsanga, following the dharmic principles, but whether I am in the very early stage of my life, middle or end, there are a lot of influences that keep attacking my goal. Okay. See, one aspect is setting the goal. Next aspect is sustaining it. Now, while in the process of sustaining, we have samsara issues, we have society issues, friends issues, and so many things that keep driving us down away from the goal, right? Then to what 150% efforts you said, yes, I agree, because that we have done our own experiences, all of us have had otherwise, but we are struggling in real life, no doubt about that. But how does one overcome all these jealous people or advising family members wrong, and in the family a lot of difference in opinion that comes because of vasanas like arrogance and things like that? How does one keep a control on yourself? That's my question. Thank you, sir.
It's a very practical question you asked, Rajji. But unfortunately or fortunately, you are going to get the same answer. The only refuge you and I have are Shastras. If you look at, say, for example, I am troubled by so many people who are jealous, right? All I have to do is look at Mahabharata. What was the Mahabharata root of Mahabharata? Jealousy of Duryodhana. He could not even tolerate the fact that during the entire Manaparva, for the 13 or the 12 years, when they lived in the Kamyakavana and Dvaitavana, they were switching back and forth. He could not even brook the fact that they were happy, contented. He had to go and create a problem. He sent Durvasa, that didn't work. Then he said, like, you know what, I'm going to do cattle counting. And he said, like, I'm going to go and do cattle counting and census of that. And he went and created so many problems. In the end, he got himself captured by at the hands of Gandharvas. Only Bhimarjuna had to come and liberate him. It is this when we try to go and was Yudhishthira able to transfer a little bit of good buddhi to him due to his conduct? No. Did Yudhishthira forgive so many actions of Duryodhana throughout his life? Yes. He forgave the fact that during Lakshagaraha, how they were abused, throughout their childhood, how they were abused, how his kingdom was taken and partitioned, and only half of it was given, and that too, the worst part of it was given. So only Shastras, in my opinion, are the only refuge, because everybody will not have a person sitting nearby and all the time reminding, hey, do this, this is your lifetime problem, that is your life problem, this how you should handle. If we expect some new age Baba magic, we cannot solve this problem. But everybody has got access to Shastras. Doesn't matter. Even if you don't have a physical book, go to archive.org, go to Valmiki Ramayana.net or something like that. And even if you don't want to read in English, you can always go to your native tongue. There are some translations. Go, the older the better. Things that are 100 years older and better. And we have different sampradayas. So different acharyas have given their insights. And if you are already aligned to a certain acharya, with a certain thought process, you stick to that. Don't add confusion by mixing two, three. We don't want to do more khichdi because we are already confused. So the only resource that we all have and share is this priceless treasure. See, we all have Bhagavan at the back to help, support, guide. He is the only one who is sustaining all this. But we don't know that. We are all too ignorant, caught up in our own world. So who explains that that is the only reality? The Shastras. So there may be different acharyas. If you are already blessed with some sort of parampara and lineage, stick with that. So the way I look at it is, all the life problems we have, we look at these Shastras. Now, when I say Shastra, I am using a very huge overarching umbrella of literature. So at one end you have Itihasas and Puranas. The other end you have Upanishads. You have Gita. Now you also have Brahma Sutras. You have, depending on how complicated or how simple you want to keep, you can pick and choose based on your own vasanas. Now, I can't say Vedas are in that bucket because most of us don't know enough of Vedas or listen to enough of it. So we can't even, and it is not even mandatory that you have to know Vedas, because all of our daily living, all this understanding is coming from these texts. That is already enough. If you are going to look only from a jnana perspective, Vedantic perspective, then we talk about Gita, Upanishads. But if you are looking from a practical, simple layman perspective, Itihasa Puranas have got everything in them. It is not without a reason why Mahabharata is called Panchamo Vedaha, because it contains in itself at least Pancharatnas. Some people say Shadratnas. You got Yaksha Prashna, you got Viduraniti, you got Sanat Sujatiya, you got Vishnu Sahasranama, you got Bhagavad Gita, and some people include Shiva Sahasranama, which follows Vishnu Sahasranama. So it's got everything what you need. If you really look at, say, Yaksha Prashna, it's got the whole practical gamut. It's not just a puzzle, it's not a riddle that is a conversation between them, Yudhishthira and Yamaraj. It is not a simple conversation. It is not only for the Dhritarashtra that Viduraniti is. It's not only for Yudhishthira's question that we have Shanti Parva and Anushasana Parva. The entire focus is how to handle Dharma, how Dharma gets, what is Sadharana Dharma, Samanya Dharma, what is Abhat Dharma. Everything is explained there. So the question is, when we take refuge in Shastras, see, that is why Acharyas have referred to Shastras and Vedas like what a mother would feed is only for one child. But what Vedas and what these Shastras are feeding is like a million mothers put into one. And they don't judge us. They are extremely compassionate in guiding us to the right understanding. No matter how many times we approach with our arrogance, it doesn't matter. It will always guide us to the right destination. So, my simple answer to your very practical question is Shastras.
Oh, yes, sir. I got the picture. But now the issue is, I mean, I'm talking of how we grow up and come in this such situation that we have not come through Guru Kula system, where at the formation time when I was young, this is what you have to do. No option. One, two, three, four. Fall in line. Follow this. Read this. say, things like, discipline of life into getting into the right, either the right way of dharmic way of living, or learning it later if I miss the bus. Because we have been very busy with the day-to-day living, and we have been busy ignoring or pampering our asanas and ignoring, and with every shot that the life gives us to wake up call it gives us, we start realizing I missed the train, I missed the bus. And we are where we are today without the fundamental knowledge of absorbing uh, dharma principles to apply to our life. Now, how does, I'm not referring to myself, how do we get into that environment in the first place?
The answer is very simple. We can't go and fix the society. We can only have control only about ourselves. So what happens is this is a painful process. I wish we could have a magic wand and say like push everybody should follow dharma. But it doesn't happen that way. Why? Because even if you are having an acharya, even if you are being guided by all these people, there's no guarantee you will. We just saw the example, right? Dhritarashtra. He got Sanjaya to explain him. He got Vidura to explain him. He got Sanat Sujata to explain him. He got Narada. He got so many rishis who came and explained to him. On top of that, he had Bhagavan Krishna himself come and tell. On top of that, he had constantly people like Bhishma, Drona, Vidura, and all these Mahakripa continuously advising to do the right thing. Did he do the right thing? Forget about the arrogant Duryodhana, who also had all these things. See, when Durvasa came, he asked him, what kind of boon you want? This Duratma could only think of how to use this Durvasa as a weapon instead of thinking what is good. When we address the topic of forgiveness, we refer to Amba's situation. Amba had so many rishis who came and advised her. Amba had Parasurama who fought on her side against Bhishma, who got defeated. Amba had the blessing of Subramanya. Instead of asking for moksha, instead of asking for getting out of all these problems, what was the one thing she asked? Revenge. In the end, even though she came back, lived another life of misery, she could not kill. It was only she became the reason for a temporary reason for killing Bhishma. So our mind is so cluttered with this idea that if we get gurus, everything magic will happen. If we get avatars, things will happen. Even when avatars come, not everybody is going to listen. You look at Krishna's life, how many people listen to Krishna? Not even the most favorite, most what is it like person who certified himself as the best disciple, Arjuna, even he didn't listen. And Arjuna, look, he was the one who pleased even Rudra with his penance, and he got Pasupatastra. Such a great Arjuna. Even he did not follow. Forget about even for 18 days. He didn't even follow 10 days. He didn't even follow 3 days. Third or fourth day, when Bhishma was bearing his entire brunt on the Pandava army who were vaporizing like crazy, Arjuna could not tolerate, Krishna could not tolerate. He told Arjuna, you know what, if you are not killing, I will kill him. It's happened a couple of times. So when the best disciple Arjuna himself could not, you see, I mean, when what is it like his son Abhimanyu was killed, did he ask? He already saw the Vishwarupa Darshana of Bhagavan. Did he ask Bhagavan, what should I do? Should I take a Shapata? Is it possible? Is it humanly possible to do all these things? Only because of the grace of Bhagavan, who stood by him because of his extreme grace, extreme compassion. Because Bhagavan liked, and now if we put into that column of Bhagavan loves us extremely, despite all our flaws, then okay, we are saved. But otherwise, even Guru will come, Guru will tell, no guarantee. It is our voluntary choice. And that's what we were talking today, right? We all have this free will, free choice. The choice to think I am a body or I am the jiva. If I don't exercise that choice, all the choices given to me by anyone makes no sense at all. If I am determined I am the body, then Bhagavan himself will come and say, no, you are not the body, you are just my own reflection. We'll say, no, nothing doing. So, we are still waiting for the society to change. We are still waiting for an excuse that these gurus are not there. I don't have a guru. I don't have this. I don't have this, all this training. Doesn't matter. And that is the beauty of Satsanga. We can start wherever we are, whenever we are, however we are. That is why we see Ratnakar turn into Valmiki, because he made the choice. That is why we hear Ajamila, who spent his entire life after abandoning his beautiful Dharmapatni and his son. He went after a prostitute and did all Panchamaha Patakas. And in his deathbed, he is confronted by Yamakinkaras and Vishnu Dutas, probably when he was 80 plus. And then he goes on to realize that he has to go burn all these negative vasanas. He goes to Haridwar and then he gets his mukti. So it doesn't matter what age we start. That is the beauty when we associate with Shastra, whenever, however. Now, whenever we get little, I seen this in my own life and experience, and a lot of people do this. Whenever our guna composition arranges a small delta more in sattva, immediately we turn the focus from the journey and we say that I want to reform this world. I want to change this world. When in only reality, just like in the plane, right? If the masks fall, oxygen masks fall, you first put it for yourself before helping your child or some other aged person, right? Same way, we have to put that mask of Shastras, Viveka, Vairagya, discipline, everything. Get past this samsara sagara. And then once you have touched the shores or reached the other end of the shore, then you can come back out of compassion and you can ferry as many people as you want. You become a guru and you can do what you want. But till the time we are not in the clear, we are the first one who is going to take the hit. Because the people who are in the world of samsara, they are very clear. They have their own focus. They have the focus on their body. They have the focus on their wealth. They have the focus on what they think is their strengths. But then because we are little bit of sattva comes, immediately we want the world to be reformed. This is the land of Rama and Krishna. What Rama and Krishna could not do, we can't. So our focus has to be only one thing. Can I align myself to Dharma? Can I stay focused on Dharma? Can I do everything towards Dharma? Can I stick to a higher standard of living? If I can do that, then my life becomes the lesson for others. I become the living example for others. When I become the example for others, whether somebody follows or not, it's their prerogative. Again, remember, everybody has got that free choice. Everybody has got the free choice to understand what is the real identity or what is their ahankara driven identity. They can do that. So all we need to do is focus, focus, focus. Because we are not out of the wood. Just because we see, I was telling this in the morning in Tamil. When we read Bhagavad Gita, when we go to a satsanga, when we listen to Ramayana Pravachana, something or that, something stirs inside. Immediately we think, okay, I got it. I got the whole thing. All we got was a bookish knowledge. We have not changed our guna completely. This borrowed knowledge has not even been digested by us. So this has to become part of us. And how do you know it became part of us? Because Shravana is only one part. We have to do Manana. Then it has to become Nididhyasana. When we do Nididhyasana, we come to the stage where there is a guna transformation. When there is a guna transformation, my new karma is going to be based on my new gunas. But my vasanas are still pulling. My vasanas are still pulling in the wrong direction. But my gunas are going to help me recalibrate my response. When my gunas are going to still change, evolve, become more and more sattvic, I will be having a better opportunity down the road. But not today. Today, all I have is this knowledge which I have gotten by reading a book, or I'm listening to someone, or maybe even some great Mahatma's life we have watched and we have been blessed. But ultimately, the needle has to move for our gunas. We have to get rid of our tamas, get rid of our rajas, and make it as more sattvic. And then only even that information stays with us. So if I just, there is they say like between the food which I am going to eat, I think it is surely going to land in my mouth, but instead it falls down. They say the slip between the cup and what is it like a cup and the lips. So when we are having that slip between the cup and the slip, now I put it in my mouth. Now in that I may have some problem to assimilate everything what Shastras say, because Shastras say, look, you have to do this, you have to do that. Some of it may be bitter to our composition because my gunas don't accept it. So I may spit it out. Or even if I swallow it, after a while I may vomit it. Or it may not be assimilated in my body, it may just get excreted. So just because we got some ideas, till the time there is a guna transformation, no real change is happening, even in our case. So let's go back to the focus of ourselves. Let's go back to, I know your question is one based out of compassion. Your question is very, very practical. Your question is based on pure compassion to other people. But unfortunately, we don't have that way. We don't even have control on ourselves, right? Because we ourselves are slave to our vasanas. We ourselves are slave to our own past karmas, our prarabdha karma, we don't even have 100% correct attitude on our next karma we are doing. So let's get back to the game, focus on our lane, what I need to do. So imagine this like you are trying to pass on the torch, pass on the baton, right? Like in a relay race. But here the relay race is not with other people. Starts and ends only with us. There is no relay here. So my perspective, though it may not be palatable, if you had, take for example 1 crore in debt and you are getting 10% interest or maybe 15% interest. So if you bring to the table, I can pay 100 rupees every month. When do you think you will pay the interest? When do you think you will pay off the entire debt? So what is the problem in this equation? It is not the debt that was the problem. What is the problem is I am able to bring only 100 rupees to the table. But instead of bringing 100 rupees to the table, for 10 crores, I bring every month 1 crore. In less than 1 year, I can get out of that debt. Now, instead of 1 crore, I bring 1,000 crores. Not only I will be able to pay off my debt, I'll be able to pay off even some more of what I need. So what we bring to the table is a factor of all the things we discussed today. How well I am rooted in dharma, how well I am able to overcome my vasana pressure, how well my character is going to become increasingly sattvic, how well my life becomes an example. So don't worry about the people around you. I'll give you one assurance that will probably comfort the root of your question. There are no permanent, this good and bad, all these things is all relative to our perspective. Everybody is going to be blessed by Bhagavan. It is only their limited ahankara whether it accepts that, yeah, I got Bhagavan's blessing. No, I didn't get Bhagavan's blessing. So everybody is going to be blessed. Everybody is going to have that kaivalya. Whether it takes this janma or whether it takes a million janmas, up to that individual to journey that path. If you are so concerned about the people around you just today, what about all the people who you have met in all the janmas of your past? Oh, we don't remember them, luckily, right? So we can't take everybody's situation into our head and break our thing. Oh, I want this thing for this person only if they want. Have you ever tried to make reasoning with a toddler, especially one throwing tantrums? They have a choice and it is theirs. So every Atman, every Jivatman will go based on this push. We already discussed this long time back. We have 3 layers, right? We have our gross body, we got the subtle body, which is made up of the prana, manas and buddhi, and we got the causal body, which is rooted in our avidya. Now, all our vasanas, papa, punya, our sanchita karma are not riding in our body, because when I am gone, they are going to burn this body. It is not gone. They are clinging to my subtle body. Because they are clinging to my subtle body, Wherever the subtle body travels, these karma and karma phala will keep traveling. And it will come with its own package. See, Bhagavan Krishna, right? Now, you, what is it like, heard of this character called Samba, Jambavati's son? For Bhagavan only, he was a problem child. Bhagavan could not fix him. Now, you can always say he was Rudramsa, he was this, that, all those things. But from a Laukika perspective, if you look, Bhagavan could not fix it. He was one of the ones who invited the curse of all the rishis and caused the destruction of Yadavas, self-destruction of Yadavas. So Bhagavan could not do anything. His own son, right? So sometimes you have to understand that compassion comes with boundaries. Because when I am going to be swept only by compassion, without my grounding in dharma, what is going to happen? That compassion is going to be rooted in a desire. That desire is going to slowly start morphing and it's going to slowly start blinding. And I am back to square one. I am now back in bondage. I am still worried about all these things. Slowly, whatever you got in the satsanga also is now negated. But instead, you stay focused, laser focus, only on getting yourself to the feet of Narayana or Shivapada or Kaivalya, Moksha, whatever you want to call. All the other things will have the fingerprint of your evolution, self-realization. It will happen. So if we put the intensity, see, for example, you have a lens. There is sunlight that is there everywhere, but nothing burns. But now you bring your focus, your sadhana, your tapasya, your intensity in following a dharmic life. You put the lens and you put it at the appropriate place. And you keep holding on that focus long enough. Eventually it's going to start burning a hole on paper, grass, things around. Everything is going to catch fire. But where is that focus? Because you stood steady on that focus on dharma, on tapasya, on sadhana, others are going to get the benefit. That is why in our shastras multiple times, if you have self-realization, you know what you are basically doing? For 10 previous generations and 10 generations after, everybody is going to be benefited. Now, even if you didn't get moksha, you were only focused on a superlative focus on dharma. Even then, those benefits will go to all the 21 generations. Now, you are wondering, how is me being in a selfish focus on self-realization going to impact all those people? Take my word. Because you raise the bar, all your pitrus will be looking up to you and they will feel the impact of your sadhana because of your intensity. And looking at that, you as an example and standard, your future generations will see you as the standard. Now, everybody will have the choice. I'll give you one last point and that should suffice your... you have Hiranyakashipu. We saw a couple of weeks ago, I don't know, I didn't see you that talk. You can go and listen to that earlier talk. All these talks are in Sanatana Marivom namesake YouTube channel. You know that. Now, Hiranyakashipu, though he knew a lot of Vedanta, he never applied it. The same example we were talking about a few minutes ago. Knowledge, unless it is assimilated and followed, is useless. Hiranyakashipu spoke Vedanta, but after his brother's wife, his mother, and brother's children were all consoled and they left on their journey, he immediately turned to hating Vishnu. Now, his son Prahalada made a conscious choice, right? But Prahalad's son Virochana did not follow his father. He followed his grandfather. He revived the enmity with Indra. But Virochana's son Mahabali, he didn't follow his father. He also did like his father. He followed his grandfather, that is Prahalada. So everybody has that choice. And you and I don't control that. The only thing is, just like Satsanga makes that difference in our lives, when a Mahatma is there, they will make a difference to others' lives because of their elevated standards. And that's how we can make the difference in the world. That's how we can. So all we have to do is bring back the focus and attention to our own self.
That was very awakening, sir. Thank you. I will superimpose my convictions on to this way of going about to my earlier convictions and see where I stand today. And then on, I'll get back to you with the whatever I have achieved. Thank you so much.
Acharya, I have one question.
Yeah, go ahead. Before that, if there are anybody in the audience who want to share their thoughts, comments, feel free to come up. Uh, we almost been close to 2 hour mark. So anybody else wants to join, feel free to raise your hands. Go ahead, Navinji.
My question is for Bhadrachala Ramdas. He was imprisoned for 7 years only because he had caged a parrot in his previous birth, and even Bhagavan Rama couldn't do until his karma was vanished after he got imprisoned. So, though his actions were aligned with dharmic, he wasn't able to overcome his karma. Can you please shed some light in this?
See, I gave this example earlier too. When Ramakrishna Paramahamsa was having cancer, throat cancer, all the bhaktas said, go and pray to Kali, everything should be all right. But he didn't, because he already realized he is not the body. What is the point in saying, save my body, save my body? He didn't do that. I'll give you another example. Ramana Maharshi, same thing, he had some ailment and they had to do surgery. He didn't take anesthesia. Just like you and I are watching Discovery Channel, some surgery going on, he was watching his own surgery as if there is no pain, because he realized he is not this body. I'll give you another example. Sadasiva Brahmendra in probably mid 17th century, I think. Right? Now, there was this Islamic ruler who was against Sadasiva Brahmendra. He came and this soldier came and he cut his hand and he was just walking. He just walked as if nothing happened. And then the guy came and said, hey, I'm sorry, this is your hand. He just put it back and it healed itself and he just left. Again, we may question the last story because we don't know, because we are all like so self-certified rationalists, right? But the other two experiences leave us much to our what is it, like a lot to learn from that experience. The last story I will or anecdote I will give you is there is this Puttaparthi Baba. Now I'm not promoting any of these people, but the thing is that in Puttaparthi Baba's case, one of the stories that is told when he was in his mid 80s or something like that, he had a hip replacement surgery, and that was supposed to be very painful. And people went and said, like, "Oh, is that not painful?" He said, "Pain is mandatory, but misery is optional." So all this karma, whether Ramdasa, all those things, from a bhakta's perspective, he was not worried about all those things. What pained him more was, see, when he was released, he went to the Nawab and he said he was more pained that Bhagavan would give a darshan to a Nawab who is a non-follower of Rama, but Rama did not give a darshan to him. That was more painful for him. He didn't mind staying in the jail. All this jail thing and all bothers people like you and me, not them. That's why I said, prarabdha karma, how we approach depends on our attitude. And that attitude, it can be tempered by bhakti, it can be tempered by jnana, it can be tempered by our dhyana. So bottom line is, these Mahatmas did not bother about that. Take Meera for example. When Rana sent her poison, she said, "Okay, I will drink." Nothing happened to her, right? Because these people have crossed that boundary, that threshold. They don't consider themselves bound by those physical boundaries, and they have even transcended the mental and emotional and financial and intellectual boundaries, because their entire focus is I am Jivatma. Even in case of Meera, what she was thinking, I am Jivatma, I am going to be merged with Paramatma, and that is what I want, and that is Krishna. Period. So the entire focus for people like very advanced Mahatmas like these, their focus is only one thing. They have already crossed that, they made that full switch that I am not this body, I am this. Take Purandaradasa for example. Same story, right? So all these Mahatmas, you can go one story after the another story after another, you will find so many people, all their focus is, once they realized I am not this body, I am this Atma, their journey has gone on a different trajectory. Now they are now thinking, what is Atma, what is Paramatma, what is the connection between those two. Now they are thinking in a different realm altogether. They are not even part of this game. See, in the video game or in all these games, what do you play? You have different levels, right? If you and I are struggling to cross that first level, now these acharyas or mahatmas are playing at level 1000 or level 10,000. They are in a totally different league altogether. They are not playing with Chunnu Munnu.
Is there a chance I can add something to that, please? If that's okay. I was just sort of also, thinking or wondering that if they can achieve that level of 1,000 or 10,000, that's probably free will, right? I mean, it's come from their Titana and basically putting in the action and doing the work, going towards a focus. They've got a particular point to reach. So it's not something that they had to go there. That was something that they wanted to go there, right? So I guess, do you think that we all people in this time and age can also do that if we have the right focus, if we have the right point, if we know where we're going, and we can transform our life being on level 1 to level 1,000 or 10,000. And I feel, I mean, this is my final point. that the people that we are generally talking about and looking up to have been there for hundreds of years, right? So we still have people in these times, including you and me. If we focus on that, can we reach that point as well? If we focus on our free will, if we want to get there rather than fate.
We, I don't know if you even listen to the 2 hour lecture we had. That was the entire focus.
No, I
The
just came
entire
in here.
journey is all about, okay, the entire journey is all about how we all have that option to make that switch. How it is our birthright to make that switch. How it is imperative for us to understand. That's what all the Shastras are literally screaming at us, pleading with us, begging with us that make that switch. That's your real identity. Now, what we are doing is, if we don't make that change in that fundamental mode, that whether I am the body, to understand theoretically at least that I am a jiva. Well, if we don't make that switch, then what is going to happen is we are going to continue this journey to be continuously influenced by our own past karmas. And those past karmas are going to keep us pulling again and again deeper into this muddy river. And we are going to keep going into this eternal cycle of samsara. So if you want to get out of this circular loop that keeps driving us again and again into the mire, we need to get out of that loop. The only way you can get out of the loop is first to understand that there is an option. And that option is being reminded to us by Mahatmas, by Satsanga, by Shastras. When we hold on to that, we get the message. But once you get the message, we need to go back and have that message become part of our life. It has to be expressed in our life. And when that happens, there is going to be a transformation in our gunas. When that guna transformation happens, our way of looking at each karma is going to become different. And when each karma is going to look different, our attitude, our way of life, everything is going to change. So we are going to have a completely different way of looking at things once we start imbibing all this wisdom that is told by Shastras, by the lives of Mahatmas and the like. And that's what we discussed for the last 2 hours plus. The replay option is on. Feel free to go and look at it. But I will also be uploading these talks in Sanatana Marivom namesake YouTube channel. You can also listen to the old talks on this.
No, sure. I think I'm going to, but I just feel that I wanted to just add to the point that it also comes. I mean, we don't really have to, read those scriptures, and I mean, there is another way to reach that point is by having your own experiences, basically getting to know what exactly you're born to, you're basically born to do in a way, be as real and authentic, to yourself, because there would be
What
things
is
that are
real?
written.
What
Yeah,
is
so
real?
I'll
What
explain
is
that in a
real?
second. Yeah. So I'll explain that in a second. What I'm basically trying to say is that a lot of the things that are being written have been written in thousands of years back, which a lot of things don't apply today as well, because the world has evolved, the world has changed as well. So you basically, it is very important to understand that what is important in these times rather than what has been written a thousands and thousands of years back.
Now I will
So I
pause. I'll
think
pause you there. I'll pause you there. No, I don't want this kind of line of negative thought process, because
it's not
if you have
negative.
not even read, you are not qualified. No, no, no. If you have not even read what is in the Shastras, how can you make a sweeping statement that these Shastras were written 1,000 years, so they are anachronistic, so they don't fit the timeline? How do you know that if you have not even read that and applied that? Even thousands of years ago, you were still using the Indriyas. Even thousands of years ago, you were slave to the Indriyas, and people have given a way out of that. And even now, the same, you and I are still slave to the Indriyas. We are slave to the Vasanas. We are still following the same cycle only. Just because you are dressing in a different way, you are talking in a different style, it doesn't mean that accent is going to change the way we are. Fundamentally, you and I are an animal with an intellect, with the choice of an intellect we use or we don't use, right? That's what we were thousands of years ago. That's what we are. And even 10,000 years later, you will still be the same. So it is very, very wrong to say
No,
that.
no, no. I'm
And
sure
second thing is, you say that we're living. No, no, no. Let me, because people are listening. I don't want people listening to get misled by this kind of
I didn't mislead anything.
thinking. No, 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 not you. I'm talking about people getting misled, because when people are saying, I am going to be real, how do you know what is real? What is real?
Okay, if you have read so much scriptures and obviously you're qualified to say so much, then you also should understand that you should give someone else a chance to say their mind as well and speak their mind, and also try and, sometimes you can learn from someone else as well, right? So all I'm basically trying to say here is being real. Like, you are not the person that I am not the person that someone else is here in this room, or even in our family itself. There are five different people, they're basically not connected to one single string. So the point I'm trying to make is that I feel that it is very important for everyone to recognize what exactly is it that works for them. What exactly is it that gives them that inner peace, that ecstasy? What is, because that could be something for you, might not be the same as for me, right? So I think your experiences in life are completely real and unique, to the point that I've had the experiences which are completely unique. So I think we need to sort of also introspect a lot, rather than just completely and blindly just obviously read what has been written in the past and try and follow that. So I think we are in the world where we don't need to believe everything. We need to believe enough, but we need to seek a lot more new things by having new experiences and figuring out what is good for me and what is not right for me. At the end of the day,
Okay, I
that
have
is
heard
going
you.
to
Listen,
get you.
sir. Sir, I have heard you wax eloquently on the path of going through the journey. Nobody said you should not. You have not even listened to the entire talk for 2 hours. But now you are coming and giving all this entire, the explanation of how you should live. Now, the thing is that you are saying that you have to go seek out experience. You are saying live a real life. I asked you, what is real? How do you know what is Sat and what is Asat? Can you give me the definition of what is Sat? But Shastras give. So who should I believe? You who is saying that follow whatever comes to your mind, or you who the Shastras are saying don't follow whatever your mind, because your mind is already controlled by Vasanas? Who should I follow?
Well, first of all, you should not judge the fact that my mind is controlled by vasanas completely to full point, right? Second of all, I think sat is sat to the extent that you experience it. What you're experiencing in life. Now, I don't. It's not written somewhere in the scriptures that you should not put your hand into a bowl of fire, for example, right? You get to know that when you are affected by the fire, that this is not the right thing to do. So that is sat. What is asat? Basically is something that you realize by your own experience that this is not true. So what I'm basically trying to say is that more people have more experiences in life with people, with things around, with health, with education, with all these different aspects in our life. There's so many different aspects in our life. When they have more and more experiences in life, more and more they get to know what is right and wrong about themselves. If you are just blindly reading into what has been written in the past, and it's got nothing to do with a particular religion. I'm not talking about religion here. I'm talking about getting to know yourself by going through that particular experience and getting to know more
Thank
about
you.
yourself. That what Yeah.
I get your point, but here is the main difference you need to understand. I totally reject your argument that what is written thousands of years. You keep parroting this. How do you know when you have not even studied anything? If a person has studied it and if they are arguing, I can take it. A person who has not studied anything, what did you find that is not relevant? Have you studied Bhagavad Gita? Here we have in the audience Bharataji, who is doing pravachana every day on Bhagavad Gita. He is leading, chanting. He is an experienced scholar and who is also living that life based on that. Now you are saying that only your experience is correct and not his. So when people rely on
I never
experiences,
said.
no, please let me talk, please. When people, there are two types of people. Shastras have already told about this. This is not like what you are going to discover. Shastras have already told there are two ways of approaching this. One way of approaching is like I put you in the middle of a desert and you are trying to find the which way to go. You have, what you are saying is real experience is important. I put you in the middle of Amazon jungle, no way, no map, nothing. Right in the middle, smack in the middle. You may come out in a short time, if at all you come out, or you could be going around in circles forever. That is one way that says I will come out of it, I will come out of it. What Shastras are doing is they lay out pathways, they lay out clear guidelines, they give out clear pathways in different forms, whether it is bhakti, whether it is dhyana, whether it is yoga, whether it is jnana, and they give milestones. They give, these are the things you should do, and when you do these things you will achieve these milestones. You can validate it, and you are saying they are not valid. So all these people who have followed that thousands
Sorry,
of
I
years,
have
they
to.
are all,
No. Hang on. Sorry, I really need to say this because this is going the right. It is not going the right way, right? I never said, not even once, and you can probably go back and you can listen to your whole replay. I never said the scriptures are not right. All I'm basically saying is the scriptures are fantastic. They are extremely close to the kind of life that we probably live, but there has to be, because your question in this room is fate or free will. I'm talking about that. A free will is when you read those scriptures but then you implement life as to according to the day and age that we live in. So I never said once that the scriptures are wrong. All I said was that the scriptures do not need to be followed blindly. You need to read the scriptures, but at the same time you need to also implement things according to your free will and understand what is right or wrong for you, and that is also written in the scriptures at the same time. All I'm basically saying is a lot of people are blindly going by what has been written, years and years back, and not experiencing life in full extent, and that is where the issue is. And once you
okay.
start doing that, you will have the best.
Have you read the
I'll just
scriptures?
I'll just finish that. I'll just finish that. All I'm saying is then you have the best of the both worlds. Then you know what you've read and you've experienced what is good for you in the time and age and place that you're living. And that's when you live a life of complete ecstasy. It's a complete life because you're not just looking at from one side, you're looking at from all 360 the
Have you
degree
found
view.
anything wrong with the scriptures? You kept telling again and again that you found that scriptures are written thousands of years ago, and you kept saying that again and again they are not valid now.
I
Have you
never said
found anything
that.
that
I
was
never
wrong?
said that.
So
Satyadana,
Harichandra
no,
was
you're
following Satya.
no, no,
No.
no. Hang on,
Harichandra was following Satya.
hang
Are
on,
you
hang
following
on.
Satya or not? Up to you, right? Let me give it to now Bharataji because I would like to listen to him. Thank you, Bharataji, for joining up. Please go ahead.
Shubhodaya. Shubhodaya, Mahodaya. I'm in a little noisy place. I just came up because it's quite interesting. With due respect to everyone out here, see, I think the issue is that, Yashji, if I may say this, the speaking about the relevance of today's context is perhaps what you really missed from Sachidanandji. Had you come a couple of hours ago, you wouldn't have made this point. And the point is that, everyone talks for himself, right? All of us out here, we speak for ourselves. But, we blindly take whatever seen. People make comments just looking at the title of it. Like, people don't even read the book, but look at the title and then make severe comments about it. I think those things are rampant. People look at the title of the room and make comments about it. People assume that, this is what people do, this is what people do, without realizing that we are part of people. So I think from the relevance point of view, I think you missed that exact point. And coming back to the issue about judging others and relevance and things like that, see, no matter how contemporary works you pick out, okay, nothing is relevant to my life. I can only draw parallels, right? I mean, if you say that, we need to upgrade ourselves of something, like for example, with what conviction could you have the confidence that what you're going to speak is relevant to anybody when you strongly believe that each one should experience life for himself? Because inherently you also feel that drawing parallels perhaps helps, and Sachidanandji was beautifully doing that, drawing the parallels from different scriptures and keeping it relevant for the current society. Now, unfortunately, we may have to go through the entire talk all over again. If you really want to go through that, perhaps I would suggest go through the replay file and come back again the next time we have the same talk. I think Sachidanandji keeps having this again and again and again. We can always have the talk. Like, nobody is judging anyone. Yes, G. I think there is some jumping the line that I see happening. Like, nobody is judging anything. In fact, you are judging that you are being judged. I mean, I think we can perhaps respect each other a little more. Sachidanandji has taken a lot of pain to kind of go through the scriptures, distill them, draw the parallel, and present it for the current day context. I think somehow perhaps his modesty would prevent him from saying this in as many words. Okay, but that's exactly what happened, and you are perhaps being a little too unjust by jumping the line and accusing that this is what happens, this is what the scriptures do, this is what people do. I think we can all speak for ourselves. That's how I would like to say. Yes, G. Not to be rude, but I think you missed a lot, but you're making some opinionated points out here.
All right. No, thanks for that answer there. And I think I get your point. And I think my point was not to troll or anything like that. If that's what you think I'm trying to do, all I was just trying to do was put out my point that scriptures are just as real as it gets. It's not about, but I also strongly believe, and this is my strongly belief, and I have read. Bhagavad Gita, sorry, and I've also read a lot of other, references to things, and basically throughout the time. I'm not going to go through it again. I'm not going to get deep into it. The only point I was trying to make was that life has so much else to offer as well. So along with reading the scriptures and understanding that what is right and wrong from that perspective, it is also extremely important to go out there, live your life, try a lot of things, experience the life in its full entirety, in its full entirety, and then also make another informed decision for yourself, that which way and which sort of life would I like to lead. And then that was my only point. But I guess it wasn't seen in the right context. But anyway, thank you for the time, and I think it's a good chat, and I will go out, and I'll definitely go through the replay of the room as well. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, SG. Just to reiterate for others who've been patiently listening for the last 2.5 hours, Shastras are gonna tell things which many of us are gonna find it anachronistic. But every single information will not be applicable to everyone. We have dealt with this topic many times. There is an element of Swadharma coming into the picture. All we have been trying to tell is, when you understand Shastras, when you are trying to live your life, you are only not even talking about higher esoteric abstract principles. All you are trying to do is elevate your vision from the I, me, myself vision to expand it and live at the level of Dharma. When we are looking from a level of Dharma, you are not going to make the myopic mistake that we all do at the level of thinking, at the level of Kama, which is exactly what the Shastras are going to keep reminding. Anyone who says, I am not a person who is bound by vasanas, well, either they are telling the truth, and I don't know what such people will be doing here. Definitely, I am not one of them. And in my opinion, such a person may not find their relevance in Clubhouse. unless there is a special calling. But all of us are bound by vasanas. All of us have that pull that keeps tugging us. We are all creatures of habit. If we tell that in English modern words, we say, yeah, we are creatures of habit. But if I tell the same thing, we are all bound by our vasanas, we are all the samskaras, what we are doing is having an impact. We talked about karma and things like that. Unfortunately, those words are not palatable because of our English delusion, moha. Vasanas is what we spoke about for the last 2 hours. And whether one concedes the fact we are all having the imprint of vasanas or not is left to one's intellectual understanding. We are not going to judge, question that or what not. Here we are just traversing what Shastras are telling, mapping it to our own life. We understood what is fate and why we cannot have a tamasic attitude of resigning to fate. We understood what is the real meaning of free will. The will to either choose prayas or shreyas. The will to look at ourselves as a body or as a jiva. That is the choice. Now, who told you and me that we are a jiva? Your practical understanding will never give you that. No amount of practical understanding or thinking that I am this, I am that is going to give us that. Because sometimes if you are going to go to a new place, because we have never been to that place. If before the GPS days, when people used to travel, what do they used to do was carry a paper map. And if you are going to use a paper map, and if you are going on a 100-mile journey or 200-mile journey, if you don't know the exit, then you have to track in the map and figure out where you are in the real world and come back. The map is only a guide, but your real world position is what determines you. Same way, Shastras are only a guide, but it is our correlation and correcting our bearings to the real world that matters. So, bottom line, we all have free will, and if our free will is associated with the body as the choice, it comes covered with vasanas. If our choice is that of jiva, the vasanas don't disappear. We start dealing with the vasanas in a different way, and we start circumventing that problem, literally burning all those karmas, and we are trying to go on a different path, different journey, because the destination is different. If we make the choice, the free will, your choice is your choice. Everybody's choice has to be respected. There is a story, I think probably, I'm not sure in which place, whether it was in one Purana or Yoga Vasishtha, I don't recall. There was this beautiful girl, and her father was a rishi, and she was very young, youthful, and she was wanting to marry another person. Father was saying he saw in Jnana Drishti that next 3 days later there is going to be a pralaya, the whole cosmic dissolution, and he is trying to tell the girl, look, you can focus on Paramatma, let's get out of this samsara cycle. But the girl is saying, no, you don't understand. My joy is in being with that person. Give me in marriage now, I will be happy. Now, look at the predicament. A rishi who knows everything, he knows that he is part of this cosmic cycle and he is ready for his exit. Whereas his daughter is more keen on enjoying the simple pleasures of samsaric life, though it is coming with an expiry date, a certain expiry date, and that too in the near future. So that is all we are doing. So when we are doing the free will choice, we think that our free will is like our will to make the choice. To a certain extent, that is true. But that will is also conditioned by our vasanas only. The will, what we are talking in the worldly sense, is severely conditioned by our vasanas, by our kama, our purusharthas, what we are looking at. Unless that is conditioned by dharma, it is not going to help us get out of the orbit. So if you are going to imagine like this, if you are orbiting around a planet like Jupiter, which is having a lot of gravity, if very little gravitational force is applied to come, escape velocity is applied, you will never come out of that into the orbit. You need to exert a lot of pressure. But when you are about to break free, if you stop exerting, you will fall back again into the orbit. And that is what we are all doing in our life. We are busy going in circles in samsara. Little bit of sattviga transformation happens, immediately we drop the ball and we say like, yeah, I have got the highest knowledge. That's not true. So let's pay attention to shastras, let's pay heed to the shastras, to satsanga, and to SG's credit. He basically, one takeaway message from that is, we have to focus on that nididhyasana part. But nididhyasana won't happen if there is no manana. Manana is not possible without shravana. Unless you have heard something from some book, some shastra, some place, somewhere, somebody's experience, is it even possible for us to sit and imagine, okay, this is the cosmos, this is what shastras are telling? We don't know. We are not, I mean, like maybe some of you are smart. I don't know. Given the choice between getting lost in a desert or in Pacific Ocean on a small raft with no rudder, no oars, I would rather travel along this well laid out path given by the Shastras with so many examples, so many rest areas, so many milestones, so many things to assist me. My car needs gas. While traveling along this road, I can hop off, refill it with listening to some Acharya's messages. I need to take a break and I want to stay in this town for 2 more days instead of going straight to my destination. Fine. I got that option. I will stay here. I will start living my life on Dharma. I'll stay on the track. That is the advantage of following Shastras. You don't have to apply anything blindly. We definitely don't want to apply anything blindly. But there is a difference between approaching it with an attitude that I want to assimilate, or you are approaching with an attitude, all these are arcane, all these are useless, I know more. That is only a display of our own ahankara. Again, going back to our wrong identity, because we say I know more than what Shastras are telling, because I have studied the Shastras and Shastras have these problems. I'm not saying Shastras we will be able to understand perfectly. See, when Rama and Sita were having this so-called drama of Sita Agni Pravesa, Rama tells Sita, just like a person who has an eye problem, who can't see bright light. Sita, I can't see you. So he is not seeing the fault in Sita. He is saying that I have the problem, eye problem. So here we are also having the eye problem only. But Rama's eye problem is different. He is talking about EYE. Our eye problem is eye. Wrongly identifying the eye as the body. But I really appreciate that interesting digression we had, because that helped us to get back on track and remind us that people who just step into the room, who had no idea about what was going on, we were discussing, chatting, talking for 2.5 hours, but here comes someone because they see some room, they see a title, they need to jump, they need to share. That is exactly what we do when we look at Shastras too. When Shastras say do something, we say no, that's not applicable for me. Maybe it's applicable for the person next to me on the left or the one in the right, but definitely not me. And Shastras are telling all these things out of compassion. They are not even forcing you to do anything. All they are pleading you is make 2-3 simple choices. One, always stick to Dharma. You and I don't know Dharma, so again we have to go back to Shastras, go back to Mahatmas, go back to Acharyas for understanding what is Dharma. First thing. Second thing, they say focus on trying to not get attached to either your karma or karma phala. And third thing is, if you have mastered those two, the last one, which is the most difficult one, give up the wrong identification of yourself. That's all. That's entire Gita in 3 steps. At least as far as I understand. I'm not saying that Gita is limited to those 3 steps. I'm taking all of Gita and putting in 3 practical steps, 1, 2, 3, where we can recalibrate. Even in first step itself, it's not going to be easy. Second step is definitely more difficult than the first one. And third step is infinitely more complicated. But unless we cross the first step, we can't go to the second and third. With those words, let's pause here. I know that if there are any final thoughts or comments, feel free to come. Otherwise, we will conclude today's talk. Sandeep ji, I have been attempting to, I'm just looking at your question. A lot of my articles cover those from different aspects, but it is not like a catalog or like a dictionary where you go and look at one article. For example, I have written an article on vasanas. I have written an article on desire and its modification, genealogy of desire. So I have given different articles with different insights. Uh, that can act like one resource. That's not the definitive resource, but that can act like a simple resource to give deeper insights.
Satyajit, thank you for that clarity. I mean, that's because of you only I came to know about that word vasana and how it influences, and actually it has helped me to gain a lot of clarity also. Like when I look at it and observe my behaviors or actions, sometimes I always remember your talk on vasanas, which you had given some months or some time back. So but what happens is we cannot keep everything in mind, and generally getting to the root understanding of a word, it will automatically come back whenever that was the intent of asking it. But you have spoken for more than 2 hours, like you've been all telling. I've just joined in today after looking at your these things. So if I can ask this, and if you can keep it simple, because you generally give clarity to the depth. If it is not tiring to you, I just want to know in the same context, like See, everyone knows there is free will and fate. Both are there to everyone. I think the confusion, even Ash, though he was right in a lot of ways, his confusions were more profound than his clarity. So it is the same situation many general people today face, and I think that is mainly because you do not have that. See, now when you say scriptures, I feel scriptures are more like the prescriptions about certain thing which is written by a very authoritative person, and like a doctor gives a prescription for, like a specialized doctor gives his prescription, and when the patient follows it, it really works wonder for them with the devotion. But do we have such doctors today? Is there such a guru today who can, without building a cult around it, can actually give that process to people? And can people really access such a person in this, a very chaotic world, where they can make a very definitive, distinction between what is actually scripture and its application, and what is like thought more like a cult or a religion? Like everyone gets influenced by the data that is fed by social media and the talks they hear and say. So that is not actually, like even Bhagavad Gita. Now the entire ISKCON is built on Bhagavad Gita. Yoga, Sadhguru Isha is built on yoga. Art of Living has built it on social service. So everyone has a certain theme based on which it has been built up. And when we generally follow such things, it is that the mind cannot have clarity. So in such scenario, I feel like what is the basic difference between a guru and a cult? This is actually a question. So that's the thing. If this is relevant and if you think you have time, you can answer. That's all.
Okay, let's take that as the last question, Sandeep ji. That's good. So, see, in Sanatana Dharma, we have raised this question multiple times. If you go and listen to some of the earlier talks, like the one we discussed about the 24 gurus, we spoke about in the context how anyone and anything can be a guru for the right student, right? So it is not but even if you take in a couple of Upanishads, I think it's Chandogya Upanishad, so where you see that some of these students are being sent away to go and graze cattle, and instead of coming back immediately, they said like you have to have 1,000 cattle before you come back. That means like you have to, if I gave you 10 cattle, like how many seasons will have to go before it becomes 1,000, right? So when the student is so focused and diligent, the when the student is saying, okay, 1,000 cows are there, let's go back, at that time the cows come and give one part of the information, Surya comes and gives another information, Agni gives another piece of information. So when the student returned, he was more knowledgeable than the guru, who he was saying like, how come this fellow is face is shining, there is some Atma Tejas, where did he get all this? So you will find this kind of thing in Sanatana Dharma. The focus is on not searching a guru, qualifying a guru, validating a guru. The entire focus is built on how can I improve my qualifications, how can I increase my qualifications. The guru will search and find you. Because when you are going and meeting, it is just a meeting of your qualifications with someone who can take care of that questions. Take Narendra for example. Narendra meeting Swami Ramakrishna Paramahamsa. Same way, Paul Brenton coming to India. He came and he searched the length and breadth of India. He found two persons who fit his bill. He goes to Kanchi Shankaracharya, the late Paramacharya, and he met him somewhere in Changalpet or something like that. He said, no, I am not your guru. You go further down, there is a hill that is in Tiruvannamalai. You will find your person there. You will find your guru there. Now here is a person who doesn't know anything. He just goes to Tiruvannamalai, he goes there and sits. and he resonates with Bhagavan Ramana Maharshi. And then he goes to that level as a disciple. Now, Ramana Maharshi is not going and saying like, hey, you come, you do. His language is silence. What he taught was silence. And what was understood was everything in silence. So, what is the language the Guru was teaching? So, when we try to take time, let's take for example the 24 Gurus of Dattatreya. The sun was his Guru, the water was his Guru, the spider was his Guru, even a prostitute was his Guru. How is that possible? Because for a person who is seeking the qualifications, the Gurus start popping. Now, the bigger question is, what are the qualifications I need to get? Where do I know? And that is where we get it from Satsanga. Now, Satsanga is not only what we do here, like there are some clubs, there are some people who are giving pravachnas. That is one dimension of it. You can go and take Bhagavad Gita, you can take Acharya's commentary of your persuasion. If you have none, then we can give some recommendations. You can take some and you can journey in that path. You study the original, you study the translation. The more you read it, the more it will start talking to you. Same thing with Valmiki Ramayana. You can take Ramayana and you can read, or you can say like, oh, I don't understand Samskrita. That's fine. Do you know that you don't have to know Samskrita to read Valmiki Ramayana? You can read the transliteration, and a lot of words are common in today's vocabulary. If you can speak one Indian language, you can get it. Any Indian language, you will get a lot of words, meanings. Even if you read the word, you don't know Devanagari, you just read the transliteration, you will get it. Now, add on top of that, there are so many translations. So, all these Shastras will give you guidance on what kind of qualifications you should get. For example, if you study the 12th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavan Krishna says, what are the qualifications of a person whom he loves? You loving Bhagavan, not a big deal. We know Bhagavan is great, Bhagavan is cool, Bhagavan is powerful, so we all love. In normal parlance, to say like you give a love letter to your neighbor girl, that's not a big deal. She is beautiful, everybody gives that to her. But if that girl loves back to you, then it is a big deal for you. Same way, we loving Bhagavan, no big deal. We know that we are somewhere powerless and Bhagavan is all powerful. So, natural equation. So, in the 12th chapter, Bhagavan has given a list of qualifications what makes us close to Bhagavan. I know there are so many commentaries, but what I did was I took those commentaries and I condensed it into a 3-part article. If you go to my blog and you see whom does God love, part 1, 2 and 3. You will get a simple English insight into some 35-36 qualities. On top of that, Bhagavan gives a bonus. He says, even if you get only one quality, all the others come free. You go to a shop, buy one, get one free, big deal. But you go to Bhagavan's shop, he says you focus on only one quality, you get all 34-35 free. So, how do you know this is free deal? Because Bhagavan himself has promised that. Now you go and develop those qualities, what Bhagavan wants to develop in us, what impresses Bhagavan. No big deal. So those qualities you start focusing, suddenly your thought process will start aligning with the right guru. Now, when we say guru, doesn't mean that, take for example, I am in pre-K. Who is my guru? Someone who can teach me ABC. I come to middle school, high school. Who is my guru? My teacher. But I want to learn quantum physics. First, I need to understand Newtonian physics. I need to understand the laws of motion. I need to understand physics, chemistry, electromagnetism. I need to understand the different principles. I need to then come to the understanding of what are the things that are happening. Then I start reading at a higher level. When I come to college, and probably even earlier, I start understanding Einsteinian physics. Then I go to deeper and deeper level. Then I start understanding what is quantum level. Then I go to a PhD guy and say, I want to do research on this topic. So you become a PhD scientist. You go do discovery, you get Nobel Prize, whatever. But right now, all of us have access to the ABCD. How many pre-K teachers and alphabet teachers are there? There are way more than the people who are ready to teach you Einstein. So all we have to do is go to the Shastras, make a catalog of all things which we are lacking, because Shastras are generous. They keep repeating the same thing more or less. Whether you look at Itihasas, whether you look at Upanishads, or whether you look at Gita, or whether you look at Brahma Sutras, they keep repeating a lot of things. Hey, you need to do this, you need to do this. You keep repeating them. And now you start focusing on, you make a catalog of things you want to work on. Start doing that, you will find the right person. Because that person is also looking for you. And he is going to come in search of you. That is why when you look at Kathopanishad, as much as Nachiketa was really happy to find a guru in Yama, Yama was more than happy to find such a wonderful disciple in Nachiketas. He takes several slokas only to sing the glory of such a student. Because it is all about the student. Right? You look at all the Itihasa Puranas, you look at all the places where Q&A happened. Srimad Bhagavatam. As much as it is Shuka Brahman who is glorified, who is the literal hero there? Of course, we know that Bhagavan is the glory for the entire thing. But from a disciple perspective, you look, Parikshit is glorified. Same thing with Mahabharata. Who is the main focus? Not Sutta Pauranika, it is only Janamejaya. In Gita, what is the glorious thing? We relate more with Arjuna than with Bhagavan. So you will find the focus is always on the student. Uddhava Gita, name only is given after the student. So Bhagavan, whether it is in all these Shastras or whatever, we get all this comprehensive list of qualities which we need to work on. As we keep improving, Bhagavan is also searching. You know, the squeaky wheel gets the oil. There is a saying, squeaky wheel gets the grease, right? Same way, we become squeaky. Even if like a small baby, let's say a mother has twins. One baby is always sleeping. One baby is woke up and it's crying. Whether it wants milk or diaper change, whatever. Where is the mother's focus going to be? On the sleeping child or on the one that is woken up? So you and I work on ourselves on these qualities. So what will happen? Bhagavan is looking like a mother. Oh, this child needs attention. He is going to send a guru. He is going to send you the right guru at your doorstep. And then you have graduated that guru. You have come from 5th grade to 6th grade. Now no more primary school, middle school. Now you have a new set of standards to master, which you have already received from insight from your other guru, or it could be Shastras. Then you start working on that. Bhagavan will send you a 6th standard guru. Then you go to 7th standard. Then you go to 8th standard. So at every level you will be provided for and taken care. Our job is not to focus on who is the right guru, whom I can align with. Many of us waste their time doing that. In that process, you will end up with a lot of hypocrites, lot of cultish people, and then what will happen is you will get disheartened halfway through, or you could be completely misled by them. You could be wasting time. So the best thing is who are following Shastras. If those cults are following Shastras, then okay. But I don't seem to see the cults are following Shastras and respecting all. They either do selective cherry picking or they come with some of arbitrary standard. For example, 2 days ago, 3 days ago, Jaggi said that Brahman is nothingness. Whereas all Shastras talk about Brahman is completeness, Bhaumatva. Here is a person who has gotten Buddhism and Vedanta confused, who can't even differentiate. So that is the problem when we don't follow Shastras and we just follow people. Oh, I am finding this experience. Whereas if you look at Shastras, you will never be misled. You will always be taken care. You will always be protected. And if you need a guru, if you need a diaper change, Bhagavan is always looking at which child needs my attention. And if you are going to go to that level, like you need only Narada or you need Bhagavan himself as an avatar to come and go to the next step, he will also do that. But it all depends on how much hunger we display in our sadhana, in following dharma, in following shastras. That's where it starts and ends. I hope that answer would suffice.
Fully, sir. Thank you again. I always wonder how you have such clarity on almost every question that is thrown at you. And God bless you. That's all. Thanks for all the clarity. One that being the answer that it's more about self study and self sadhana is what Sanatana Dharma is, and then student is what is the center of guru and all this thing. And this also the last one. I think everything throws a perfect clarity. Thanks for that.
Okay, I would like to take this opportunity. We are almost at 3 hour mark. I know that we all can only endure what our rear end can tolerate. Most of us are sitting on our rear and we can only tolerate so much, right? But I really appreciate the fact that so many people are still there from the beginning and also from the almost for most part of it, and they have been listening. So I don't want to be too much overbearing. I really thank this opportunity for Bhagavan. But it's satsanga that is possible only because of all these astikas. People who are hungry, people who are asking these questions, people who are we don't take time to judge other people, though we get all sorts of odd questions. It is never our intention to judge anyone because we have to go in that journey, we have to work our way out and things like that. So I really take this time to thank each and every one of you. I also take special time to thank Naveen ji. I know Atma ji had some connection problems, so he had to leave, for stepping in and being the mod, because sometimes we get all interesting people and somebody has to be there when my attention is not there. So thank you, Naveen ji, for doing that. I know you have done that once or twice in the past too. So I really thank you for that. We had a lot of ground to cover, and I'm pretty sure a lot of people are going to go back and listen to this talk maybe once, twice, how much ever time, because this is a bit heavy topic too. But despite being a heavy topic, so many people have taken time to interest to listen to it, and that's really humbling. Just like somebody mentioned that this is a very practical topic too, but nonetheless it is definitely one of the ones that where we get a lot of questions, lot of doubts, lot of confusions. So I'm pretty sure everybody is going to go and re-listen to it, share with others, and feel free to distribute with others. And with that, I will hand it over to Navinji, and after that, we will close the session. Jai Shri Ram.
Pranams, Satchidanand. Thanks for this, as usual, a very insightful and enlightening session. We'll be closing this room in count of five. Jai Shri Ram, Jai Shri Krishna.